Like Nicole said, my name is Eric Wood. I'm a systems engineer out of the U.S. I work on the East Coast, and I know that I am the last man standing between lunch and the follow-up. So thank you all for staying. So this afternoon, I'm going to be talking about one of my customers on the East Coast. Is the state of Delaware. Um, the state of Delaware, for those who don't know anything about the state of Delaware was the first state of the colony in the U.S. So they have the first star that's in the flag, and they're the second smallest state within the U.S. And I had to switch over from miles to kilometers so to make sure I get it right. So from north to south, they are only 134 kilometers, and from east to west, it's only 34 kilometers, and partial of that is water because they have beautiful beaches in Delaware, and we frequent those beaches on the weekends. And also within Delaware, they have very lenient tax laws, especially for corporations. So when you come through Delaware, you will see so many banks in Delaware because a lot of corporations register for the U.S. in Delaware because they have to pay less taxes. So with that said, the clicker, all right. So, for the state of Delaware, they have a very sophisticated and a comprehensive criminal justice system. Um, so, within the state, they have many agencies, and like Mark was just saying, that within state and local government, they have a centralized processing center, and all the agencies will come into the processing center because they maintain the mainframes. So the state of Delaware and the CJIS system, which is the criminal information system, they've already told me many, many times, we are not getting off of the mainframe. We are not getting off of ZOS, and Adabas and Natural will be our system of records and our programming language. So that is great to hear from them. They have been, so these are some of the agencies that actually run under the CJIS system. So we have law enforcement. So in the states, we have multiple judicial people. Like we have town police, we have city police, we have county police, and we have state police. This is all going to be in one particular state. As well as within Delaware, they have 5 different judicial court systems. So they have Supreme, they have Superior, they have Family Court, they have Justice of the Peace. So these are different court systems that they have, as well as for the DMV and the DELDOT, which is the Department of Transportation. They all use the CJIS system for various reasons, and I will talk about some of those a little later on within the presentation. So a little bit more about the state of Delaware. They are a very small state, but they're doing big things within the state. They have been a customer for a little over 30 years, and the products that they're currently using are Adabas Natural. They also are using very heavily in TireX. They have started implementing in some of the agencies the web methods and integration server. And like Nicole said, we have one of the agencies that are starting off using the Connects, and later on we'll be using Adabas auditing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how each and other agencies use our products and how they integrate and modernize with each other. They have over 400 plus partners, and these partners are agencies within Delaware, and there are other agencies within other states that integrate with the CJIS system within Delaware, as well as federal agencies. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those federal agencies that interact with them. Now, this may be very small, but right now they do about 2.9 billion Adabas commands a month, and this is steadily growing now. So they're a small state, but we have some customers that do a little bit more per month, but for them, this is very significant. So for the different agencies, there is the court system throughout, and it's called the Judicial Information Center. Within the court system, they have their applications that's running and they share their Adabas files. At one point in time, they were siloed. And the legislation said, you know what, this is costing us too much money because you have the same files with the same data in it. Why can't you all integrate those data together? So this is where they started using InterX so that they can share data amongst these agencies. So for the court system, they there was a legislation law that the judge says, you know what, I want to see a holistic view of a person that comes to inside my court. So let's say Guido comes to court. Sorry, Guido. That's okay. All right? When the judge calls, Guido Falkenberg, and what he wants to see a full history of Guido. He wants to see his driver's license information. Was he a deadbeat dad? Is he a sex offender? Does he have any warrants for arrest? All of this is captured in the CJIS system, and they integrate all of this into the system based on a legislation law. This is what he wants to see. As well as within the court system, they wanted to make it easier for their citizens. So when they have to come to court, when Guido has to come to court, he can look online and see how much his court fees are going to be, what room his court is going to be in, whether or not he got that nice judge or not, as well as being able to make payments for those court fees and what time he needs to be at the court. So this is some of the integrations that they did within the system. Also within the court system, once Guido was, let's say, charged with something, and he was on the bus going to jail, sorry. You're up front. That's what happens when you sit up front, right? So he's on the bus with the rest of them, got his little orange jumpsuit on, and he's going to jail. And you look good in orange, by the way. Previously, they had to wait maybe hours or maybe a couple of days before the Department of Corrections knew exactly what he was charged for and where he should be placed within the jail system. So, I'm sorry, Guido. Guido had some sex offense going on there, right? And so they didn't want to you wouldn't want to put him in general population. But beforehand, they didn't know that. And if someone knew who Guido was, he would go, and he would go, But so now they are able to move this data over to directly over instantaneously. Once the court made the charges, the Department of Corrections had that information already. So these are the progressive modernization things they did within the product. Okay, so Guido, you're off the hook now. Department of Motor Vehicles, they use the system to track to make sure that when someone goes to register for their renewed license, they want to make sure that they have paid all of their child support, they don't have any warrants for their arrest, and so forth and so on, before they can be issued their new driver's license or even new tags and so forth. The FBI that produces and consumes information out of the CJIS system. So, for an example, if there someone that caused that is a criminal and a fugitive, they send that information to Delaware, because a lot of times they like to come to Delaware because Delaware is an easy, low place they can hide. So they send data back and forth within that, as well as new sex offenders and child molesters, whatever, in the neighborhood and so forth. They are coming from the FBI and other federal agencies. Then there's the state and local, and what we call the lease system. This is for the state and local law enforcements. They have an application that when a police officer comes to an environment, let's say stop you, Aaron stops you with a ticket, pull you over, they pull up and see exactly who you are. So they go out and look at your DMV record, they go look at your criminal record, because this is a very comprehensive system. Once you are entered into the DelGIS system, you are giving a criminal record number that stays with you for life. All right? So that's how they tie and integrate all of this data within the CJIS system. So when he pulls you up, he knows, okay, this guy's a good guy. He just had a little DUI. I'm sorry. And all of this is consumed through InterX, and now they'll be using Connects with this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, so these are some of the challenges they had. So Delgis, which is the most innovative agency within Delaware, they're the ones who are they're always on the bleeding edge, and they do things first before the other agencies act upon it. So, because they are 30 years within, have sensitive data for over decades, they need to make sure that the data is secure and stays secure, especially when now they are starting to interact with these other partners, and within these partners, they are now web enabling in their environment as well as going to the cloud. So they need to make sure that whoever's accessing this data is a user within the system before they can provide them with the information. So they needed to make sure that this data is protected, and they needed a solution very quickly. So they kind of had a little chat with us, and they was like, okay, so what can we do to make this happen? Because we have natural programmers, and things change all the time. But we don't have them enough dedicated natural programmers, because a lot of them are retiring, right? Some of them are dropping dead. And then others, they just can't find the resources and the new generation to hire to handle the load. So they said, how can we quickly create and modernize the systems and as well as handle the new web and cloud deployments without affecting security? So what they did was we talked to them about Connects, right? And we explained to them that Connects will allow them to have direct access in near real time to their data, because that's what something they wanted to do for years. They're like, you're kidding me. We never knew. We always wanted to get direct access to natural. We wanted to bypass doing some of the natural programming, because some of the things we wanted to do is quick, and we want to get directly to the data with our applications. So this was one of their first applications they implemented with Connects. Now, how many of you are using Connects in your environment? Okay, great, good. How many know what Connects is? Okay, so it's like, okay. So Connects allows you to have SQL access directly to Adabas, right? So their applications, they are a very savvy shop. They do a lot of .NET in a Linux environment. That's where their applications are written. And so what their first project, again, was they had a homegrown system that looked for authorization for a user. So in order to get access into the Delgis system, they first had to say that you had authorization to go to any parts of the CJIS system. So it was called the Criminal Justice Information System, and it was based on OpenID and AuthID. So they had already had an application written, but they didn't have a solution to go directly get the data from Adabas. So Connects was used to grab the profile of an individual who was trying to get access to any data within the CJIS application. Once they got that profile, they got the green light. The gate was open, and they can go and pull data out of Adabas to do whatever they wanted to do. So this was written again in .NET. They actually did something a little bit more sophisticated than any other user that have used the Connects product. They actually installed Connects in a Docker environment in a very bare-bone, thin client environment. They stripped out everything they could take out as possible out of Connects. And what they did was, within these Docker containers, they tested in Windows. By testing in Windows, they used a standard ODBC driver, and when they were finished testing in Windows, they would move that container into the Linux environment, where they didn't have to make any changes at all. They just went from a standard ODBC driver to the Unix ODBC. And then what they did was also sophisticated, was they used a shared volume so that when they generated their CDD file, that CDD file could be shared from both environments. And if there was a change within the CDD file, it was only changed in one place without any code changes. So when we explained that to the developers of R&D, they were like, how did you do that? you know, show us what they did. So these guys actually showed connects people what they did and how sophisticated it is. So whenever the products they use of ours, it's never straight out of the box with them. So, water here. So, Connects is really a big innovative move for them for Delgis. What happened within this, they have been able to rapidly keep up with the new deployments, new requests from legislation, as well as they have about 10,000 plus users that across the platform that uses this information. So that's why they need to validate them with that OAuth system that they're using. They also, some of the projects that they have done is they have automated their e-ticketing system. So for an example, when a police officer pulls you over, Aaron, you get pulled over again, so now you get a ticket. So they don't sit there and write the ticket anymore. They just write the information. That information is then sent directly over to the system, and you get mailed tickets for you to make payment to it as well. They also, one of the other initiatives that they did was for individuals that passed a school bus. So when a school bus is stopped and they got the stop sign out so the kids can get on, if you pass the bus, they were able to take pictures of your license and send that picture over to DMV. DMV will grab it and says, "Oh, this is Jasper's car. He's going to get a nice, healthy $100 ticket, for passing a school bus when the stop sign is out." So these are some of the integration and modernization they did with their systems. Okay, so the next system that they were looking at updating was the LEASE system, that law enforcement information system. It was a desktop application that used InterX ACI to go out and grab data when an officer needed information about who they were stopping, where they were going. If they said that they're going to 123 Main Street, they want to know what was at Main Street and what was happening at that. So that's being implemented, as well as in the U.S. there is a legislation that's called a clean build legislation, which means that if you can expunge any laws any crimes that you have done. And one of the main ones was when they started legalizing marijuana in the U.S. If you got arrested, Elin, for doing a little doobie on the side, and you got arrested for it, or you had some narcotics. What happens now, since it's now legal, they are now expunging that, so that it's now you get a clean slate, and you no longer. So now they can remove your criminal record because now you're no longer a criminal within in the CJIS system. So those are some of the projects that they're currently working on today. Now, I'm rolling here. We're going to get there. So on the last portion, they're doing today is a proof of concept of database auditing. How many know about database auditing? Great. So what they needed to do when they talked is Delaware they're very strict on who's touching what information within the system. They have auditors. That's all they do. They just look at systems to see who touched it, when they touched it, how they touched it, why, and how long they were looking at a record. And Bob kind of mentioned some of that, what they did over in the state of Minnesota. So they currently had a system called Intellex. I think that's what it was called, Intellex. They had a system that actually did. You heard of that system? Anybody ever heard of that? Intellex, yeah. So they currently are using, but something is going on. They're not renewing the contract, and they want to stay with use a Software G product. So they are going to use database auditing, but they're not going to use it out of the box because they want real-time streaming data as it happens to go into their analytics system that they built. So they're going to be they're going straight from database through InterX. InterX is going to move that data to their repository, to their program. They're going to pull it out, and then they're going to put it into their analytic tool to get access and get real-time alerts when someone actually looks at data that they should not be looking at. And this is based on location, who's looking at the governor's salary, anything of that nature. This is what they want, real-time streaming of the data from out of their CJIS application. So with that said, I know I talk fast. I talk really fast. Any questions at all? How many are hungry? You just want to go to lunch, right? or you want me to pick on you, put you in the system? Yeah.
Eric.
Yeah.
Eric, just a quick question. So obviously you are our engineer as well for the Virginia DMV. So just a quick question, as far as like their roadmap from converting like those desktop applications or any of the more legacy .NET applications, could you explain a little bit on what their roadmap might look like and maybe some of the products that they're intending on using for their modernization?
They're going to continue to use they're going to continue to use Adabas Natural, of course, as a system of record. They're using, what was he telling me? This guy, Michael, I can hook you up to him. This guy, and you and him would be really nice talking to each other because a lot of times Michael would be talking, I'm like, yeah, okay, Michael. You know, I said, I got gray hair, remember? But yeah, they use a lot of, they had .NET 8 and everything's in Podman and moved over and yeah, so I can let you talk through some of the applications that you know. Yes.
As you're staying on mainframe for your Adabas data, have you considered co-locating your .NET applications on container extension or something like that on mainframe?
They have.
They have already.
Yeah.
And that works?
Yes, that works for them, yes.
Fantastic, because we're considering that. That sounds good news.
And again, they are a referenceable customer, and they love chatting about what they're doing.
That's really good.
Love.
Interesting, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Eric, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.